immigration brings benefit. It brings obligations as well, quite apart from who is winning the public debate. Now, the Migration Watch think tank suggested the population growing at this rate would add the equivalent of 15 Birminghams to the UK population over the next 23 years, which, going by the numbers for Birmingham, means you need nearly 7,000 new schools, 2,640 new GP surgeries, 135 hospitals, almost 8,000 new roads and 75 more police stations. Now, you might raise your eyebrows at some of that, and immigration is predicted to fall over the next 5 years, but it doesn't seem like it's ever going to get back to those sort of tens of thousands figures once promised by David Cameron. So what do MPs want the government to do? Let's ask one of them, Conservative MP Miriam Cates. Miriam, thanks for making time. What needs to be done to get this sorted?
Well, there are some fairly simple things that the government could do because, as you said in your introduction, legal migration is fully within our control. Obviously, illegal migration and the small boats issue is much more difficult to solve, but legal migration is fully within our control. And it's all about how many visas we choose to issue to people from abroad every year. And predominantly those visas are either for work or for study. They make up the bulk of the visas that we offer. And in both those cases, the bar is just far too low in terms of the reasons and the kind of people that we are allowing into the country. So for work visas, I think when people voted for Brexit, when people voted for us in 2019, we promised them an Australian-style point system. And I think what the public had in mind was something very much like the Australian system, where you have to prove a very high level of skill, a very high level of financial means so that you can support yourself and any dependents when you go and live there. But in this country at the moment, you only need a salary of around £26,000 in order to get a work visa. Now, when you think the median wage is £33,000, there's no way that a £26,000 job could be called high skilled. It might be a very well regarded and well needed job, but it's not high skilled. And at that level of salary, you're most likely to be dependent on our services. So to take more out from our NHS, our schools, our police, etc., than you put back in through tax. So we don't really have democratic consensus for that kind of low skilled immigration because we promised something very different. And on student visas, it's a similar story. I think there were nearly 400,000 student visas issued last year. You can't pretend that's only about the elites of other countries coming here to study in our top universities.
So why? Why did it happen?
Well, that is a very good question, because I think after Brexit, obviously, EU migration slowed right down, and that was part of the reason for Brexit. But at that point, instead of putting in high bar controls that the government should have done, for some reason they didn't. They put in this was under Boris Johnson's premiership, put in very low bar controls. Now, you could almost say, well, for the first year, nobody can predict exactly how many people would come over under those conditions. But after the first year, we very much knew, because this time last year, we knew that net migration was soaring to its highest ever levels. And at that point, many people, including New Conservatives, the group that I co-chair in Parliament with Danny Kruger, earlier before the summer said, we need to do something about this. Let's raise the salary cap. Let's cut off some of these low-skilled migration routes, and let's be much stricter about students coming over here. And we know that Suella Braverman's been saying the same thing, and other people within government. But for some reason, those decisions have not been taken. So here we are again, a year later. So I think this time last year, we could have explained it away, but not this time.
So is it a failure of Sunak then?
Well, there is a failure somewhere in government to recognise not only what needs to be done, but also the democratic importance of this. And I think that's why this is such a big issue, because in every single Conservative manifesto since 1992, we've promised to cut migration. So for 30 years now, essentially, what people have been calling for and voting for has not been delivered. And that is very, very serious. And that's why I think the government has got to get this right this time. Otherwise, we are in serious trouble, as you said in your introduction.
I mean, they're sort of running out of time a bit. I mean, what leader do you think it would deliver these types of controls on legal migration?
I think there are some very easy things to do. First of all, raise the salary threshold to something like
sorry, Miriam. Which leader? Which leader rather than which methods?
Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister. He can change the rules tomorrow. He can make an announcement, or the Home Secretary can make an announcement on Monday saying that they can change the rules, change the levers, make it harder to get a visa, and that would have an almost immediate effect on who gets granted a visa and therefore the number of people coming to this country. It really is that straightforward. Now, of course, there are wider arguments about economics, about culture, about the reasons why people want lower migration, but we know they do want lower migration, and therefore we need to act.
Do you think he will? Do you trust he will?
Well, I very much hope so. And I think I've seen a few things in the news today saying that statements are being prepared. I know the Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, is very, very hot on the detail of this. And so I'm sure there are discussions. But the thing is, this is our very last chance to prove that we can do this, because, you know, the government has only got a maximum of a year left to go. We won't, the next time the figures come out will be after the general election, probably. So therefore, we have to put in place today real action that will bring the numbers down.
So you hope. That's what we will end on. Miriam Cates, MP, thank you very much for joining us.